Tonight, the provincial government introduces a law to stop collecting carbon tax on natural gas, effective January 1st. Also, a proposed bylaw in North Battleford would charge property owners for the cost of emergency service calls like excessive garbage, messy yards, loud parties, and drug dealing. Plus, an unlikely artist, how a Borden area teen taught a retired racehorse how to paint.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, November 16th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for watching. The Saskatchewan government is moving forward with its plan to avoid sending carbon tax money collected by Sask Energy to Ottawa. It will also transfer legal responsibility from the Crown Corporation to the minister responsible. Adam Hunter explains.
The provincial government introduced Bill 151 on Thursday. It follows up on a promise made by Premier Scott Moe last month to forgo paying carbon tax collected by Sask Energy to Ottawa on January 1st, unless the federal government exempts all forms of home heating from its carbon pricing system.
This certainly is not a stunt. We take it very seriously. The whole of government takes this very seriously.
The bill includes clauses that transfer legal responsibility for the decision not to remit carbon tax from Sask Energy executives and the Crown Corporation to Duncan. He says he has retained legal counsel in case he's found in violation of the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act. Failing to follow the act can result in fines and potentially jail time.
In the event that the government does make the decision to ultimately not remit, that this will not be borne by officials or board members at Sask Energy. This will be a government decision, and that any potential consequences will not be borne by them. They will be borne by me as minister.
The opposition NDP is calling for the government to pause the provincial fuel tax for 6 months. It says that would save the average family $350. Duncan says Sask Energy not collecting carbon tax starting in January would save the average family $400 next year.
My understanding is that for the average citizen, this would provide a greater financial relief in terms of seeing a reduction in a removal of the carbon tax from their Sask Energy bill. So we certainly think that this is one of the measures that we can take as a government, that the federal government should take for all Canadians to provide some affordability relief.
The federal government has exempted home heating oil from the carbon tax for a period of 3 years. It's primarily used in Atlantic Canada. Duncan says he is hopeful the federal government will decide to exempt all forms of home heating from the tax across the country. The Prime Minister and his cabinet ministers have remained steadfast that they do not plan to offer any further exemptions. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
The Regina Police Service is getting more funding from the province to the tune of $6.6 million. Part of it is to expand a program that partners officers with mental health professionals to help people experiencing a mental health crisis. The government helps fund the Regina Police Service and other municipal police services annually, and this year that funding was increased by 2%. The Police in Crisis Team, or PACT, has been operating since 2015. RPS says the pairing of officers with mental health professionals has been successful in decreasing visits to the ER for people in a crisis. More than $114,000 of provincial funding will be used for an additional PACT position. But mental health professionals say more needs to be done to help long term.
So to have a conversation about getting counseling or getting help, they don't even know what that is at the moment. So following up afterwards, wherever they are, whether they are at the homeless shelter, whether they're at detox, whether they're in their parents' house, or whether they're anywhere, following up and seeing then if there was anything that we could offer them as a province.
A lot of the work that our PAC teams are doing is that follow-up and consistently following up with people so that they don't get to that point where they need to call 911 or someone else needs to call 911. So I think that that work is happening, and this additional funding will just increase that work in the community.
MacDonald says the mental health professionals need to be skilled in trauma-informed approaches as well. She also says Regina police officers are known to show care and respect when dealing with individuals in crisis in the community. Police, firefighters, and paramedics are often called to the same handful of properties in North Battleford. Officials there hope a new approach with a bylaw will cut down on these calls and lead to cleaner, safer neighborhoods. Jason Warwick reports.
It is kind of typical of what we're dealing with.
Lindsay Home and other emergency services workers have been called to this North Battleford home many times.
This property would be what we're looking at in terms of a property maintenance perspective. As you can see, it does have a large accumulation of debris and rubbish in it. And typically, the home inside will be very similar. So a property like this becomes a safety hazard, not only for the police officers that are responding to a location like this, but also my community safety officers and my firefighters if we have a fire inside. So this is the type of typical property that we'd be looking at applying our bylaw to.
That new bylaw would charge property owners for the cost of emergency services calls, things like excessive garbage, loud parties, drug dealing, and broken windows. It passed second reading this week in North Battleford Council and could become law as soon as January 1st. Home says they visited one property more than 30 times last year. The bylaw would not issue any fines for people who make legitimate calls. There will be exemptions for medical emergencies or crimes against individuals and businesses, for example.
We want to ensure that people are calling 911 or utilizing emergency services for purposes just like that. This bylaw is not intended to take any of that away.
The lead RCMP officer for the region says this will help police as well.
There's a lot of crossover between their work and ours, and we're having to go back to the same particular properties repeated times.
They could face charges of up to $1,200 per hour depending on the type of response. Officials say these changes will improve the quality of life for neighbors living near these properties. They also hope that it will free up scarce resources so that fire, police, and ambulance services will be available when people need them. Jason Warwick, CBC News, North Battleford.
Saskatoon's Board of Police Commissioners are discussing ways to get more alternative response officers onto city streets. That unit works with vulnerable people with complex needs by helping them connect with services and support. The Pleasant Hill Community Association is asking police for 2 more officers.
And during your watch, Pleasant Hill has not been left further behind. But a decade ago, maybe decades ago, Pleasant Hill was left way back there with disproportionately high crime rates. When are you going to turn around, come back, and invite us to join the safety shield that you are providing for the rest of the city?
Police Chief Troy Cooper says the force is working with the Pleasant Hill community on the issue. He says he's hopeful 3 more ARO officers will be added and on the streets by February. 2 former principals at Christian Centre Academy in Saskatoon are pleading not guilty to multiple assault charges. Lawyers for Duff Friesen and John Olabobakun appeared in provincial court Thursday morning. They entered the not guilty pleas and elected trial at provincial court. Former students from the private Christian school came to court wanting to see what would happen with the cases involving 2 former principals. Duff Friesen's lawyer appeared by phone. John Olabobakun came to court but didn't want to speak. The men are facing a combined total of more than 20 assault charges. One former student says he's waiting to tell his story in court.
We saw everything that went on in there, and we're happy that, there is accountability at the very least, and that these stories are being heard and taken seriously.
Friesen and Olabobakun will be back in court later this month. That's when trial dates will be set. Saskatoon's transit system is about to get a big boost thanks to new money from the province and the federal government. Saskatoon Mayor Charlie Clark welcomed the Provincial Minister of Government Relations and the Federal Minister of Families, Children and Social Development to City Hall on Thursday. Together, the politicians announced a $150 million for various infrastructure projects in the city. Most will go toward creating a rapid transit system to help move the city's public transit beyond buses.
We are just at the point where we're reaching about 300,000 people in our city. And what we've learned from other cities that get to that place of about 300,000 is you cannot build an efficient, effective city without having a transit system that can move people more rapidly and more efficiently as you grow.
In addition to a rapid transit system, about $40 million will be used to build a new leisure center in Saskatoon's east side. A pair of coyotes have set up camp near the South Costco store in Saskatoon, and customers who've encountered the critters are posting photos and comments on the Saskatoon Costco Lovers page on Facebook. And yes, there are lots of Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote jokes, but there's also a lesson about learning to interact with wildlife. See, they're not shy. They bounce around snowbanks, they investigate mulch for munchies, amble along the boulevard. A wildlife expert says it's not unusual to encounter animals as our cities expand.
What is bringing them in? Why are they coming to an area consistently, daily? That would be because there's food. They're just trying to survive, so they're on the hunt for food all the time. Could there be a heavy mice population that they're coming in for? Rabbits? They definitely are coming in to find food.
Signs are posted in the lot now to help shoppers understand how to deal with wildlife. The main tip, let them forage and do not feed the wild animals. It was a clear, crisp Thursday in Regina after some light snowfall last night. The breeze making it feel a little cooler than it is out there, but it sure is nice to see that sunshine, and it looks like a little bit of a warm-up will follow. Ethan will have the details in his forecast after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. How does one drive a pickup truck through a gap that's too narrow for it? Well, here's the new Guinness record holder, Paul Swift, showing us how. By driving on two wheels, of course, he managed to squeeze his truck through an 88-centimeter gap. Across the globe, other talented people have also been busy in the lead up to today's Guinness World Records Day. From the new record of highest backflip pogo stick jump at just over 3 meters to the most number of consecutive full twist back somersaults. There is 11 in a row, if you're wondering about breaking the record.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. 2023 model clearout is on now.
Challenge not accepted. I'm the clumsy one, but our weather specialist Ethan Williams joins me now, and do you have some somersaults for us?
Yeah, well, we've been kind of doing cartwheels over the snow in portions of the province. My anxiety is still coming down from watching specifically that guy driving like this on that ramp there. Oh man, well, there might have been a few people who felt like that on the highways this morning as we had a little bit of some snowy and icy conditions. Showed you this a couple of days ago. This is the satellite shot that shows, again, mostly no snow in western sections of the province. This is melting snow off to the east, including Regina. Let's fast forward to this afternoon, and yeah, that's a lot of white in southern Saskatchewan from the snow that we got, but it roughly follows the path of the Trans-Canada here. So north of there, including in Saskatoon, you're still lucky in those tropical conditions without any snow on the ground at this point. These are totals as of about 7 o'clock this morning, and I think there were pockets of some heavier snow. We did see a snowfall warning around the Merrifield area, but the report there about 5.5 centimeters. Even just southeast of Regina, about 5 centimeters. Regina ourselves, we picked up about 0.5 centimeter to 1 centimeter. But now high pressure has cleared out much of the province, even the north seeing some peaks of sun here and there, a little bit of snow moving into western sections. But with that system passing us by, we are seeing winds pick up a little bit. They've been in the 40 to 50 range in some locations today, still in that range in west central Saskatchewan, but we are seeing those come down. Now, northern Saskatchewan, the reason that you're a little bit chillier is because we have a separate area of high pressure in the Northwest Territories. That's dropping temperatures into the minus double digits for you folks. But you can see where the snow is on the ground here in southern Saskatchewan because of those kind of cooler temperatures that we're seeing. In fact, Regina and Weyburn, this is below now what our overnight lows are expected tonight. We are dropping fast temperature-wise in portions of southeastern Saskatchewan. And for you folks not seeing the snow, some of us still above the freezing mark right now. But all of us going to be seeing a warm-up because the jet stream building in a little bit of a ridge here, and over the next few days through the weekend, Looks like we're going to see some pretty nice temperatures, even the jet stream kind of sitting right over southern Saskatchewan. Not a lot to talk about at the surface level and what's going to be happening in our skies, because another round of high pressure moves in tomorrow, and that's going to keep a lot of us nice and sunny, and even moving into Saturday, not a whole lot of activity. Some increasing cloudiness for the north. Next best chance for a system will be what looks like mostly mixed precipitation in the far north heading into early Sunday morning. So for Regina, just how warm are things going to get? Well, probably close to around 2, 3, 4 degrees here through the weekend. And then things change pretty abruptly. We're looking for very windy conditions and, yes, even feeling close to minus 20 by the time we get to next Wednesday. The good news is, doesn't look like there's any major snow systems moving in, so we're just looking for partly to mostly sunny conditions. Saskatoon, gorgeous weekend ahead for you folks, but then you kind of just drop right off a cliff here going into Monday and Tuesday. Temperatures dropping by 7 degrees each day into the minus double-digit territory, with those overnight lows into the minus double digits for you folks as well. So riding a bit of a seesaw here, Sam. Very nice on this side of the forecast. This side, not so much.
Could you just stand in front of that other?
No.
Just shuffle a little more, a little more.
Perfect.
Thanks, Ethan.
There we go.
The epic job that is decorating Government House for Christmas is underway in Regina. Turning the space into a Victorian holiday wonderland is a big effort by the staff. The space is closed this week to make it happen with a lot of decorations. 17 trees, 7 of them fully decorated, 450 feet of garland, 50 wreaths, 100 poinsettias, and of course, thousands and thousands of lights. It will reopen on Saturday for the public. We'll be back after the break.
When it comes to your news, you want up-to-the-minute access. Anytime, anywhere. Get the facts straight from the source. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca for news you can trust.
A jury has found Nathaniel Veltman guilty in the deadly attack on a Muslim family in London, Ontario, nearly 2.5 years ago. The verdict drew an emotional reaction inside the courtroom today, and many in the community feel the healing itself may take much longer. Chris Ensing reports.
Inside the courtroom, gasps and tears as the jury announced its verdict. Nathaniel Veltman guilty of 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. On June 6, 2021, Veltman used his truck to kill 4 members of the Afzal family, murdering 3 generations of the Pakistani Muslim family and seriously injuring a 9-year-old boy. The jury's decision was made after 6 hours of deliberation, reviewing 10 weeks of evidence introduced at trial, including a video confession to officers hours after the attack and pieces of a manifesto written to share his white national beliefs. The Crown said that Veltman did this to send a brutal message to Muslims and to intimidate them. Outside the courthouse, relatives thanked the Crown while asking people to reflect on the night of the attack nearly 2.5 years ago.
This trial forced us to return to that intersection once again. The dreadful crossroads where the very best and worst of humanity converged 2.5 years ago.
You can't deny the feelings of fear that people might experience, but this is an important step towards making our streets safer. And the fear is real. And we have many of our community members who are visibly Muslim, and they continue to express, fears of walking down the street.
Today, the defense said that they will consider all of their options moving forward. We're expecting that a sentencing hearing will take place in December. Veltman will be given life with no chance to apply for parole for 25 years. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
Today is the anniversary of the execution in 1885 of Louis Riel. There were several events today across the country, including one at his grave in St. Boniface, Manitoba. The Red River Rebellion, led by Riel, was pivotal in Manitoba entering Confederation. And last month, Manitoba's new provincial government said one of its first acts would be to designate Riel Manitoba's honorary first premier. Riel was executed 15 years after Red River, convicted of treason for leading the ill-fated Northwest Rebellion in what is now Saskatchewan. And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather.
Yeah, and the temperature here that you see at midnight, Sam, well, we're already below that in Regina, but we will be looking at mostly clear skies. A little bit of a wind going to make that feel a little bit cooler, and as we head into the morning hours, a little bit of wind going to probably make this -5 feel a little bit closer to -10, but we will still be sunny, and heading into the afternoon, a quick warm-up above the freezing mark with those mostly sunny skies sticking around. For Saskatoon, we'll actually be on the mostly cloudy side tonight, again around the freezing mark. We are close to that already right now. And then by the morning hours around -4, wind chill again closer to -10. Afternoon, though, already above freezing again. A little bit of a west wind, but this 4 degrees, just the start of a nice warm-up as we head into the weekend, Sam.
Looking forward to it before it drops off a cliff.
Yeah, right.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And before we leave you tonight, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. But apparently, you can teach it to paint. And as Pratush Dayal reports, that's exactly what a Saskatchewan teenager has done.
Ella Wall first met Duff the horse a couple years ago. The 17-year-old rides the Kentucky-born thoroughbred several times a week. And now she's taught him to paint using his nose and his tongue.
Now we have to ask him what colors he wants to use.
If Duff touches a paint with his nose, she puts it on the canvas. After adding several colors, she covers the canvas in plastic. Then Wall coats it with some edible oil the horse licks, which mixes the wet paint underneath. That camelina oil also acts as a supplement for the retired racehorse's joints. Once the plastic is removed, voila, it's a beautiful painting.
If I get the paint bottles out of my locker, he gets excited. He knows that he gets to paint. He loves being an artist. It's his life's work.
Wall got the idea after seeing it on TikTok.
Yeah, I did.
So far, she has helped Duff paint 3 dozen pieces and sells them for $25 to $60. That money goes back into caring for the horse, who boards at a stable near Borden. Wall says Duff has a strong artistic point of view.
So I just put some blue on and I took it over to him and he just looked at me. He would not touch it. He wouldn't make the painting because he knew that that blue was on it and he didn't tell me to use that blue.
The pair has also developed a unique relationship. Wall cares for Duff and helps him let go some of his nervous habits like biting and head bobbing. Brianna Dill Schneider owns the horse. She says Wall, who has Tourette's syndrome, gets as much from it as Duff does.
It's a mutually beneficial relationship. She became Tuff's person. And sometimes with Ella's Tourette's, she's unable to speak. And so Tuff allows her to speak again. She'll come out and all of a sudden be like, yay, I can talk again. And he just unlocks so much in Ella.
I don't do very much. I don't have a job. I don't do any school clubs. I spend all of my time here with him.
Wall says she and Tuff are glad to have found each other, and she hopes they can keep spending time creating art together. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Borden.
And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can always head to our website, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.